All right, welcome. For years now, the Pi Network has been one of the most watched projects in crypto, all driven by one huge question. Well, in 2025, we finally got the answer. So today, we're going to break down the massive updates that just changed the game for millions of users. Let's get right into it. So that huge question for its millions of users has always been this. Will the Pi on their phones ever become a real tradable asset with actual value? And, well, stick around, because by the end of this, you are definitely going to have your answer. After all that waiting, all that mobile mining, and all those questions, 2025 was the year the project finally made its biggest leap. All right, first up, let's talk about the single biggest development for the network, and that's the jump from just a test environment to a live, breathing blockchain. Okay, so for anyone who's kind of new to this whole world, Mainnet is basically crypto talk for going live. Yeah, think of it like this. It's the moment a project graduates. It stops being just an experiment and becomes a real, independent network where every single transaction is final and officially on the books. It's a huge deal. It's the moment of truth. And yeah, that is the headline news right there. After some pretty big delays, for stuff like KYC verification, that's the whole know your customer thing to make sure users are real people, and a few other technical roadblocks, the Pi Network mainnet is now officially up and running. And that's a game changer, because it transforms Pi from just a theoretical token inside an app into a real, fully fledged cryptocurrency on its own blockchain. So naturally, the second the mainnet went live, everybody had the same question on their minds. What does this actually mean for the coin itself? So let's dive into the price, the tokens, and, where you can actually go to trade it. Okay, so as of late 2025, the Pi coin is sitting at around 20 cents. But here's the thing. What's really interesting isn't just the price tag itself, it's the stability. In the crypto world, new coins can be absolutely wild, with massive price swings up and down. The fact that Pi has managed to hold a pretty strong support level right around this mark, that suggests there's a real level of market confidence there. Okay, and another huge piece of the puzzle was the token unlock. So back in August, 160 million Pi tokens were released into the wild. This just massively pumped up the available supply for trading, which, the experts call liquidity. And what does that mean for you? Well, simply put, it means there are way more coins out there to be bought and sold, and that just creates a much more active and dynamic market for everyone. And look at this. It shows you just how real this has all become. Pi is not just some idea on a phone app anymore. No way. It's being actively traded on major exchanges like OKX, and you can track it on big platforms like CoinGecko. This is real-world, in-your-face market presence. And it's not just sitting there on the list. It's active. The daily trading volumes are hitting millions of dollars. That tells us there's healthy liquidity and some genuine market interest, even while the whole ecosystem is still, just getting started. Now, with all this new action happening in the market, the official Pi Network team put out a really important warning. They're basically telling everyone, hey, stick to our official channels for information, be super careful about rumors and fake news, which, let's be honest, is just solid advice for anything in the crypto world. But here's the thing, right? A successful crypto project has to be way more than just a number on a chart. The real test, the thing that determines long-term value, is its ecosystem. So what's actually being built around the Pi coin to give it a real reason to exist? This right here, this perfectly sums up the big strategic shift that's happened. Back in the testnet phase, it was all about one thing, growing the user base through that mobile mining app. But now that we're in the mainnet phase, the focus has done a complete 180. It's all about creating real-world use cases and making sure there's enough liquidity in the market. So, okay, how are they actually going to do that? Well, the main goal is to give the Pi coin some real, tangible utility. And a key strategy we're already seeing pop up is partnerships with Web3 games, where you could literally use your Pi as a direct way to pay for things. And the end game here is pretty simple. Create demand for the coin that's about more than just people trading it back and forth on an exchange. And while all that's happening on the front end, behind the scenes, the technical work is really ramping up. They're building out new trading interfaces, creating what are called Pi-denominated trading pairs, which basically means you could trade other cryptos directly for Pi. They're also constantly improving liquidity through updates to their testnet and decentralized exchanges, DEXs. Think of those like a stock exchange, but they run on the blockchain without a big company in the middle. And all of this work is pointed at one single thing, making the whole network stronger, more reliable, and just plain easier for everybody to use. Okay, so all of that brings us to our final section. The mainnet is live, the ecosystem is starting to grow. So what's next? What does the road ahead actually look like for the Pi network? A lot of experts are pointing to the next few years as the make or break period for this whole project. So the key milestones we all need to be watching for: first up, getting full support for decentralized apps, or DApps, by 2026. Then comes the real test. Can they get widespread real-world adoption by 2028? And it's a big if it can hit those marks, the goal is to have a really mature, thriving ecosystem by 2030. And that really leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? The switch from being an app to being a real asset, that's happened, check. But now the focus shifts completely over to utility. Is building out these real-world uses going to be enough to give Pi Network staying power in the ridiculously competitive world of crypto? Well, that is the story we'll all be watching.